And welcome everybody to another CIRF report. I think that you're going to be very glad that you came here to the CIRF report and watched this, because the influence is drastically different than what the solution is going to be. And I'm going to show you that we get a lot of chaos going on, including a supermoon. People tend to get a little bit crazy on the supermoon, and that's verifiable science, especially over in Europe. I'll leave it at that. And then we've got some other things like Venus going into a new sign into Aries, and that's actually very similar energy as the supermoon in Leo. Then we have a T-square that can be kind of confining. We have a gateway with a grand trine. We're going to be talking all about the exact astrology day by day here in a second. This is just the overview slide. Then the I-Ching, we have two hexagrams. The first one is the influence, indicates the influence, and that is after completion. That's hexagram 63. We're going to talk extensively about hexagram 63, but you can see how the blue and the purple are overlapped with each other. This generally has a sense of unsatisfied, like there's got to be more. There's more, and it kind of can be individuality, which is why the dream bot is not inside of these circles per se. The dream bot represents the collective unconscious, and it has more of memes of language and connection and journey and travel, which doesn't seem to be a prominent theme in either the astrology or the I-Ching. But here's the thing, the dream bot is very much connected and overlapped with the solution, but we don't talk about the solution until the end. This is the summary slide. Just suffice it to say that the dream bot, the collective subconscious, is not under the influence, if you will, of the main influential energies. And that's good news. It's already set up as part of the solution. So hopefully you're part of that collective subconscious or collective unconscious, and that way your behaviors will be more automatic towards the behaviors that will accentuate the energies in benefit of your individual lives. Okay, hope I said that correctly. I think I did. Whoops, that's the wrong slide. Let's talk about the DreamBot first. This is the outlier in terms of the influence, but it does give you a foreshadowing of where we're headed for the solution. And for that, let's talk about the least common meme, and that's going to be journey travel. That's the orange arrows. It's just curiosity. People are curious and traveling and journeying. But more common, more frequent than that is the red arrow family, and that is family, connectedness. So you got words like kid and cousin and friendship and stuff like that. So it's connectedness, net, and family. But the most common, and this is where the solution is going to be coming in, is the language, story, symbology. What does it mean? The deeper meaning, the new story. There's going to be a lot of changes in Uranus coming up that we'll talk about in the astrology. But focus in on the blue arrows. That's going to be the key. All right, now I'll leave it at that. And then let's finally get into the astrology. This summary chart is jam-packed with stuff. So let me just say a few words here. First, we talked about Venus. You can see Venus here under the center of my highlighted circle. It is coming out of Pisces, going into Aries. And so the first few days, you're going to feel that dreamy beauty, harmony in the dreams. And it's kind of watery and slow and very attached emotionally, very psychic kind of thing, harmonizing based on psychic material, potentially, maybe dreams of romance and beauty. That's the first couple of days. And then Venus will go into Aries, which is going to be more about the individual. Aries being representative of the ego and my place in it and what is in it for me. And so this could end up being a little bit vain because, if Venus is also not just beauty, but the way I present to the world, and I want to shed the best light I can and represent myself the best and maybe show off sometimes. And then Aries being kind of it could be very impulsive and fiery, and what is in it for me. So it could be very vain. And I'm going to leave it at that because that's almost a direct overlap as the super full moon that we're going to be talking about later. So I'm going to highlight that. That's a change. It's a big change. And then you have Uranus trine Mars. That's going to be giving you the ability to make some big changes. And you can see that's the longest green section here. So with this trine, it's easy energy, it's easy change, but Mars being the willpower. So you bring in the willpower to change, and you've got a really powerful alignment right there. Then you have Uranus with a semi-sextile to Venus, and that's a growing change in relationships. So obviously, if people are changing, the relationship's going to have to adapt. And that just really makes sense overall. But a lot of change in there. And then a little bit more transformation happening towards the end of our week. This is Jupiter conjunct Pluto. And that's expansive transformation. That's optimistic transformation. So there's a lot more in there, and there's a lot of red as well towards the end, but these are conjunct and a little semi-square. So not too much to worry about. I am going to talk about a T-square here in a second, and but not yet. This is the 6th of February. It's a Thursday, and in this chart, we're looking at the centerpiece is the moon, because the moon's got a trine, 3 oppositions, and an inconjunct. And so emotions are very imbalanced. If oppositions are more about trying to achieve balance or needing balance, then we got a lot of imbalance happening here with the emotions. Furthermore, we have the moon trine Neptune, and that Neptune has a sextile over to Jupiter. So the dreams have an opportunity to be very optimistic and expansive, but we might be emotionally escaping to those nice dreams. And escapism is a prominent theme in the influence. It's a desire to escape, or kind of have a tendency to motivate escapism. Lastly, what I'll say on the 6th, this is Thursday, is that we have Uranus square Saturn in the chart, and that's it's been there, but it's growing in exact. So we've got really a long ways to go, 7 more degrees till exact. So it's going to be here quite a while. And Saturn square Uranus is upsetting the apple cart the way things have always been. There's a pressure for change. There's a pressure for changing the status quo. There's some sort of pressure that changes law or the foundation. The foundation gets it feels earthquake or unsettling. So you have that constantly there throughout its entire week. All right. That'll be part of the T-square, by the way, that happens later. All right, then on the 7th, this is where the T-square is, and you can see that the moon makes another square with Uranus. We've already talked about Uranus and Saturn. So those make a 90-degree, and then the opposition with the moon and Saturn completes the T-square. So this is kind of feeling trapped in the pressure to change. So the emotions are kind of blocked with this thing. It's emotionally confusing. The change itself, and remember, Uranus doesn't really like giving you a heads up on these changes. So that can produce some big emotions, and I should be pointing at the moon for the emotions because that's where that is. Now, the way out of this T-square is the trine, moon trine Venus. And this is the last few degrees of Venus in Pisces. And Venus in Pisces is very emotionally connected. It's psychic, it's harmonious, um, but beauty in the dream and beauty in the connectedness of life, emotionally connected and all that. And so that trine makes that even easier, because emotionals, there's a book called The Emotional Anatomy of, no, The Spiritual Anatomy of Emotions. Or is it The Emotional Anatomy? Yeah, I think it is. I think that's the book. And so that's that whole premise of that book is that the emotions, the solar plexus, is our gateway to mysticism. So it's a very mystical alignment, and it's easy to get psychic material or telepathy or some other kind of transpersonal experience in or on Friday. All right. So that's the way out of the, if you're feeling trapped in the pressure to change, just remember the connectedness, and that goes back to the Dreambot. On Saturday, Venus goes into Aries. And when you wake up, Venus will be in Aries. And we talked about that before. It's going to be a huge shift of that beauty, harmony, energy. Okay. And then the square is still there. So there's still just a pressure to change. And then with more change in kind of our sense of identity with Aries. All right. Our place in the relationships. All right, Sunday the 9th. This is the full moon, and it's happening very early in the morning. We're looking at Central Time, 1:32, 1:33 a.m. on February 9th. So this is shortly after midnight, and we have a full moon exactly at 20 degrees Leo. And Leo energy is passionate, but it also tends to want to be recognized. And so here we've got emotions that are wanting to be broadcast out. We're not afraid to talk with Leo. The emotions aren't afraid to come out and be recognized. And so passions are in there too. But let me show you something else about passions, especially because this alone, that full moon in Leo, is passionate, but you also have a trine over to Mars at the same time. And this gives you easy energy to your willpower. And if Mars is in Sagittarius, we've got a lot of fire there and a lot of willpower. And it can be a kind of a mixed blessing here. It can be impulsive, which not a bad thing by any means. But it also can represent deeper wisdom, or can come from a place of deeper wisdom. And hint, hint, here's another part of the overarching solution is we do have to be going deeper in this entire week. So we don't want to be too impulsive. We want to think about things a little bit more, but we really want to go deeper than just thought and go into intuition and seek deeper understanding. Mars in Sagittarius, but Sagittarius wants to be deeper wisdom, wise, deeper knowledge, etc. And of course, Mars has a trine over to Uranus. And so, Uranus is all about unexpected change. Well, we've combining willpower with unexpected change, kind of making it more, you have a choice now. You have a kind of more of a choice to make some changes. So anyway, we talked about change before, and this does have a lot to do with Uranus, but just in a full moon is an opportunity for change. There's kind of a chaotic energy here, and people really don't know what to do with this chaotic energy. And this one is coming out. And there's not a lot of choice here on and the fact that this energy wants to be seen, wants to be heard, wants to be recognized and accepted. So, it's going to be bubbling up. And watch what you want to say. Watch what you are saying, because that could indicate where to place your willpower. Remember, we want a deeper sense of where to place this deeper wisdom and willpower towards a change that you want. And then, lo and behold, we have a grand trine. Now, 2 points of these are in fire signs. 1 point is Uranus, like we talked about in the previous slide. So this is just in a little bit later in the day. This previous slide is just the full moon. That's at 1:33 a.m. And then when you wake up in that next morning, 9:43 a.m., but I mean, throughout the entire morning, we have a grand trine. 1 point of earth, 2 points of fire. So it's not a fire grand trine, but it is a grand trine. And so it's basically a gateway. This, just like I talked about before, with the moon trine Mars, trine Uranus, and then now the moon is making that complete grand trine over to Uranus. This becomes a gateway. It's a gateway to create opportunity or create change, but you basically can be seizing any opportunities. Uranus is kind of unplanned, and I'll give you that. Mars is definitely application of what is planned. So we kind of have a contradiction, but it's a trine, and it's a very positive aspect, good energy between these. Mars and Uranus. So watch out for opportunities and make sure you're ready, make sure you're aware, and seize those opportunities with your willpower, your Mars energy. And you kind of have a tendency to be impulsive, but do make sure that it's at the deeper, wise level. And then Monday the 10th. We actually have the power to do something about the change because we have moon trine Jupiter, which is very positive. We have moon opposite Neptune, so there's a little bit of your dreams coming into this play. And we are potentially seeing very optimistic and expansive dreams. We have an opportunity to put all this together into, again, Mars trine Uranus, into some very meaningful change. And it just might happen to be that pressure to change what has always been the status quo. Then on Tuesday, there's a brief loss of passion, only because, let's see, why did I put that note in there? Well, because of the Mars square moon, and that kind of makes you an obstacle towards the willpower part of things. So your passion is kind of briefly paused there. But you do have a trine of both the transformation planet Pluto and the Saturn planet of foundation and structure, and also optimism and expansion. So it's another chaotic emotional day. It's very chaotic there, so watch out for that. But Mars trine Uranus, you are still able to push through change with your willpower. And then finally, next Wednesday, the 12th, we have emotional adjustment to the dream. That's going to be Neptune, and that's the moon in conjunct Neptune right there. Again, emotionally adjusting, emotionally chaotic here on Wednesday as well. And so it's going to be hard to just go with the emotions because they are going to be kind of all over the place. Let's get into the I-Ching reading. And we come up with 2 changed lines in hexagram 63. It's called after completion. We have water over fire, which is not just dumping out the fire. Sometimes you have water over fire and like water in a cauldron, and you're boiling the water. But if you have the fire too hot, then the water evaporates. It boils too much and evaporates. If you've got too much water, then you put out the fire. And so there's a balance here that needs to happen. But a little bit more specifically, after completion, it is a fine irony that after the completion of a project or great enterprise, there is still much to do. So it's kind of that feeling of emptiness or feeling of I can't celebrate too much. There's still more to do. Completion is merely a pause in the cycle of creation and decay, and a momentary still point for the swinging pendulum of life. While the current situation suggests a high degree of order, life's pursuit of change means that in time, disorder will emerge. Well, we're going to be seeing this disorder throughout the week, which kind of makes it a little bit chaotic, non-planned-ish a little bit. But anyway, we continue with hexagram 63. After completion is like a kettle of water over fire. Too much heat and it boils over, extinguishes the fire, or the water evaporates. The sage understands the small relationships existing between elements and guards against misfortune by not growing complacent. So let's talk about the first two lines. The bottom line, line 1, continuation for its own sake can bring misfortune. Let me say that one more time. Continuation for its own sake can bring misfortune. Pressing ahead after completion can threaten to bring collapse to established success. So we don't want to just keep on going throughout this week. The influence is that because there's more unfinished business, we got to keep on going. We have to pause at the right times, and that's what this energy is all about. It is important, this is line 2, it is important to not try to attract attention to yourself through immodest behavior. Now think about this in terms of the astrology. Try not to attract attention to yourself through immodest behavior. What does that sound like? It sounds like Leo. Full moon in Leo wants attention, wants to be seen, wants to be recognized. And so don't just give into impatient behavior or immodest behavior. Really think about what you're doing. That which is rightfully yours in the end can never ultimately be denied. All right, those are the change lines. So it's all about kind of vanity, kind of superficiality, kind of unfinished business, kind of a little bit of emptiness. And you remember the slide, the summary slide, down at the bottom, unsatisfied. That's where this overall energy came from. All right, let's talk about the solution. When you put in the two change lines, you get hexagram 48. You actually just go down one step in the second column, and it's called the well, water over wind. Here's the well. Throughout all the cultures of the world, the well has served as a symbol for that which sustains life and provides a constant, inexhaustible source of nourishment. All right, so let me pause here. Everything that we've talked about in terms of the astrology and a little bit of the dreambot, no, I'm sorry, disregard that last part. Just the astrology has been more superficial. So you've got a potential to be vain with Venus going into Aries. You've got a super full moon, which, Leo can be loud, obnoxious. And again, I don't want to make these two signs sound bad. It's just the tendency towards the I-Ching energy is superficial. And that's why the solution, according to the I-Ching, is use the well, dive in deeper. Beware of shallow thinking. The image of the well suggests that going further within produces greater clarity. Be patient. Penetrate your problems and your own nature as deeply as you can. Self-development is key to reaching down the tap to clear water. If you do not lower your bucket into the depths, you're likely to come up empty. There's the unsatisfaction. So if you don't do the solution here this week, you will come out continuing to be unsatisfied. So we've got to dive deeper. And, let's go to the solution slide. I think it'd be easier to talk about then. All right. So one last time through the summary of the influence is on the top part, the astrology. You've got this full supermoon in Leo. That is a wonderful aspect, by the way. and with the side effects of needing to be recognized and seen and heard, and it can kind of tend to be more egotistical and superficial if you don't watch that. Venus and Aries, same kind of thing. You got the T-square and trapped in the pressure for change, but can't really figure that out. And then the Grand Trine with the opportunity for real change, but all along, not pausing, not going deep, and then ultimately feeling unsatisfied. So here's the solution according to rational thought with the astrology, and then combo with the DreamBot and the second I-Ching reading. So first of all, go deep within. Look for deeper wisdom, deeper knowledge. Watch for surface level wants, needs, and desires. Watch for egotism and vanity. That's the superficiality that's this threaded all throughout the astrology. It's going to be easy to bite off on superficial stuff or escapism. So watch out for that. Opportunity for massive change and overhaul, especially through the weekend, through the full moon, and that Grand Trine is basically the gateway for this great opportunity. You have to be ready. You have to seize the day. You have to have good energy. You have to be willing to not be resisting superficial stuff or top level emotional stuff, to be able to see these opportunities. And finally, cross check these opportunities with your values. Remember that the Mars energy with trine to Uranus is the key to proceeding with lots of willpower throughout this opportunity. But the cross check that you want to have, because Mars is in Sagittarius, which can be boom, really fast and speedy Gonzalez and impulsive, just do a cross check of your highest values on whether or not this decision or this opportunity is really right for you. So plumbing deep within your soul, plumbing deep into your intuition, but then cross checking with your highest values on whether or not this opportunity is right for you. And that's really, I think, all you're going to need. And I bet you're going to be satisfied at the end of this. All right, if you got questions, I'm here to answer those. Ask those below. And other than that, we will see you next week. Make sure you plumb deep and make the best of these opportunities. Thanks, everybody.